Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually addresses 22nd ASEAN-India Summit in Kuala Lumpur, hails partnership in diverse areas from digital connectivity to food security. Russia tests new nuclear-powered Buzvestnik cruise missile. Putin says the missile can evade any defense system. Cambodia and Thailand signed expanded ceasefire in presence of US President Donald Trump. Deal includes military de-escalation, release of prisoners and removal of heavy weapons from border areas. And Louvre Museum heist suspects arrested near Paris. No jewels recovered as yet. Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually delivered the remarks at 22nd ASEAN-India Summit being held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Prime Minister said, and I quote, "India and ASEAN together represent nearly 1/4 of world's population." He says we not only share geography, we are also bound by deep historical ties and shared values. We are companions in the global south. We are not only commercial partners, but also cultural partners. ASEAN is a cornerstone of India's Act East policy. Prime Minister further adds, India has always fully supported ASEAN's centrality and ASEAN's outlook in the Indo-Pacific. Even in the era of uncertainties, India-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership has continued to make steady progress. The theme of this year's ASEAN Summit is inclusivity and sustainability. The theme clearly reflects in our joint efforts, whether it is digital inclusion or ensuring food security and resilient supply chains amid current global challenges. India fully supports these priorities and is committed to advancing them together. India has stood firmly with its ASEAN friends in every disaster. Our cooperation in HADR, maritime security and blue economy is growing rapidly. In view of this, we are declaring 2026 as ASEAN-India Year of Maritime Cooperation. At the same time, we are steadily advancing our cooperation in education, tourism, science and technology, health, green energy and cybersecurity. We will continue to work together to preserve our shared cultural heritage and strengthen people-to-people ties. The 21st century is our century, the century of India and ASEAN. Prime Minister says, I'm confident that ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and goal of Viksit Bharat 2047 will build a bright future for all humanity. India is committed to working shoulder to shoulder in this direction. And those are some highlights of what Prime Minister said in his remarks at the 22nd ASEAN-India Summit. Convergence of the Vision 2045 and Viksit Bharat Vision of 2047.
भारत हर आपदा में अपने आसियान मित्रों के साथ मजबूती से खड़ा रहा है। HADR, समुद्री सुरक्षा और ब्लू इकोनॉमी में हमारा सहयोग तेजी से बढ़ रहा है। इसको देखते हुए हम 2026 को आसियान इंडिया ईयर ऑफ मैरीटाइम कोऑपरेशन घोषित कर रहे हैं। साथ ही हम एजुकेशन, टूरिज्म, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, हेल्थ, ग्रीन एनर्जी और साइबर सिक्योरिटी में आपसी सहयोग को भी मजबूती से आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। अपनी साझा सांस्कृतिक विरासत को संजोने और पीपल टू पीपल संबंधों को मजबूत करने के लिए हम साथ मिलकर काम करते रहेंगे।
The 47th ASEAN Summit kicked off in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur, on Sunday. Nearly 24 world leaders are engaging in intense diplomacy over the next 3 days on issues pertaining to trade, security and regional stability. Apart from the ASEAN Summit and the East Asia Summit, ASEAN will also hold separate conclave with leaders of key powers. East Timor was formally admitted to ASEAN in the group's first expansion since the 1990s. Here's more. Malaysia, as the chair of ASEAN, is hosting the 47th ASEAN Summit and related engagements under the theme Inclusivity and Sustainability in Kuala Lumpur from 26 to 28 October. Nearly 24 world leaders are attending the 3-day summit. East Timor joined the ASEAN bloc as its 11th member state on Sunday after 14 years of campaigning. Also known as Timor-Leste, the country of 1.4 million people is among Asia's poorest, and it hopes to see gains by integrating its fledgling economy with ASEAN. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim welcomed East Timor to the ASEAN family and said it reaffirmed ASEAN members' shared destiny and deep sense of regional kinship.
To President Ramos Horta, Prime Minister Zadana Gusmao, its place here completes the ASEAN family, reaffirming our shared destiny and deep sense of regional kinship. Within this community, Timor-Leste's development and its strategic autonomy will find firm and lasting support.
In an emotional speech, East Timor Prime Minister Zanana Gusmao said it was a historic moment for his country with a new beginning.
Timor-Leste has been admitted as the 11th member state of ASEAN. For the people of Timor-Leste, this is not only a dream realized, but a powerful affirmation of our journey. On behalf of the government and people of Timor-Leste, I extend our deepest gratitude to all ASEAN member states, to the ASEAN chair, the ASEAN Secretariat and our dialogue partners.
US President Donald Trump started his Asia tour in Malaysia on Sunday by signing a flurry of deals on trade and critical minerals with 3 Southeast Asian partners as Washington looked to address trade imbalances and diversify supply chains amid tighter export curbs on rare earths by China. Trump, who attended the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, signed reciprocal trade agreements with his Thai, Malaysian and Cambodian counterparts that will see the countries work to address tariff and non-tariff barriers. President Trump also co-signed a ceasefire agreement between Thailand and Cambodia, a truce he helped broker after the deadliest clashes between the neighbors in decades. Trump said he was confident of a great deal when he meets Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week. Trump also held a bilateral meeting with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim on the sidelines of ASEAN Summit. The White House released statements following the meeting, saying the two countries had reached agreements on reciprocal trade and critical minerals. The ASEAN Summit is accompanied annually by East Asia Summit, a gathering of leaders of ASEAN nations, the US, China, India, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. Apart from the ASEAN Summit and the East Asia Summit, ASEAN will also hold separate conclaves with leaders of key powers in Kuala Lumpur. Bureau Report, DD India. And some more developments from the ASEAN. Leaders of Thailand and Cambodia have taken a key step towards ending their long-running border tensions. The two countries signed an enhanced ceasefire deal on Sunday in the presence of US President Donald Trump, marking a renewed push for peace and regional stability.
Breakthrough in Southeast Asia, Thailand and Cambodia have signed an enhanced ceasefire deal, marking a significant step towards ending months of border tensions. The agreement was signed in Kuala Lumpur in the presence of US President Donald Trump, whose mediation in the conflict earned him a Nobel Peace Prize nomination.
Well, this is so exciting because we did something that a lot of people said couldn't be done, and we saved maybe millions of lives on this one peace deal itself.
The new ceasefire builds on a truce reached 3 months ago after President Trump personally urged the two sides to end hostilities, warning that the failure to do so could impact their trade negotiations with Washington.
As we speak, I think our two commanders are discussing on the possibility of start of withdrawal, partial withdrawal of the first phase of our heavy weapons as an indication of our willingness to show that the execution of the joint declarations.
Thailand stands for peace. This declaration reflects our will to resolve differences peacefully, in full respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity. This declaration, if fully implemented, will provide the building blocks for a lasting peace.
Soon after the peace deal signing, Trump inked two separate agreements, a reciprocal trade deal with Cambodia and a pact with Thailand on critical minerals. Thailand's Foreign Minister Sihasak Phuangketkeow hailed the ceasefire as a pathway towards peace, expressing confidence that its terms will be enforced under ASEAN supervision.
The official title is the Joint Declaration on the Outcomes of the meeting between the two prime ministers in Kuala Lumpur.
So would you call it a peace deal?
Well, I would call the pathway towards peace.
On the ground, residents in both the countries reacted with cautious optimism, many welcoming the prospect of peace, while others remaining skeptical, wary of previous truces that failed to hold.
Basically, this agreement is good for both sides, especially since each has expressed a desire for peace and our country needs peace too.
It would be good if Cambodia could follow through, though I'm not sure it can. According to the news I've heard, Cambodia hasn't softened its stance and continues to reinforce troops at the front line. I'm uncertain whether they'll honor the agreement. Still, if they can crack down on scammers, that would be a positive step.
The coming weeks will test the resilience of this agreement. Amish Mahajan's report, DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll talk about the ASEAN Summit and partnership with India. Kurdistan Workers' Party group says it is withdrawing from Turkey as part of disarmament process.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We now return to our top story of the ASEAN Summit and engagement with India. Joining us is Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, former senior diplomat. You have served as Ambassador of India to ASEAN and the African Union, besides Germany, Indonesia, and I mentioned Germany as well. And welcome, Ambassador Singh. As a cornerstone of India's Act East policy, what is the importance of ASEAN for the country, and what does this partnership signify in current geopolitics?
Thank you for having me. I have also been ambassador to Timor-Leste. So today I must say I'm very happy that Timor-Leste has finally joined ASEAN. The first time a country has joined ASEAN in this century, because Cambodia joined in 1999. So that is indeed a happy day. ASEAN is, as Prime Minister said today, the cornerstone of the Act East policy. And in our Indo-Pacific policy, the relationship that the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative has with the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific is another corner of that same axis on which India collaborates. And the third axis is now the new action plan between India and ASEAN 2026-2030. So in this whole process, India establishes a cross community. You know, ASEAN has three communities: political security, socio-cultural, economic, and then the connectivity aspect, which is part of their vision 2045 now. So India is the one partner which is associated in all and is seen benignly. So India has moved from the economic partnership to a fulsome partnership. I think there was an important thing that Prime Minister Modi said today in conclusion. He said, this is our century, India and ASEAN century. Interesting. He did not say this is an Asian century, because often the Chinese interpret that as being the Chinese century.
Right.
So PM was very clear today. It is the century of India and ASEAN. And he also said in these troubled times, the comprehensive security partnership, the comprehensive strategic partnership between India and ASEAN gives a balance to the region. Now you see, this is the picture in which India and ASEAN engage.
Right. Ambassador Singh, also looking forward, 2026 is presented as ASEAN Year of Maritime Cooperation. What will be the priorities for the two sides in this domain?
Thank you. So the AOIP-IPOI MOU signed in 2021 has delineated certain areas of cooperation which emanate from the ASEAN outlook in the Indo-Pacific and are largely functional and maritime oriented. India and ASEAN already have a joint statement on maritime security since 2023. We have now converted that into maritime cooperation, and Prime Minister mentioned the blue economy and other matters which we will bring to the fore. And in this 2026 year of India-ASEAN maritime cooperation. Now, this is again drawing a line which is separate from what China does in this region. Right. China tries to dominate the South China Sea and all ASEAN littoral countries, which is so different from what Prime Minister said today. And there was certainly no doubt when the President of Philippines recognized this difference on how India is basically supporting ASEAN through legal instruments on the South China Sea.
Right. Ambassador Singh, what kind of crossroads would you say is ASEAN standing together as it sort of seeks to navigate through various security, internal security and economic challenges? At the same time, there are these external pressures as well. If we talk in the context of US, you mentioned China, US-China competition.
So from the time ASEAN was created in 1967 to 2025, the world has totally changed. The matrix in which ASEAN was invented doesn't exist anymore. We are moving towards a bipolarity and trying hard for India and ASEAN, for instance, to retain a multipolarity. So therefore, what China and United States give ASEAN are difficult choices. What India provides is a multipolar solution for ASEAN to be a part of a world where, using the global south and our comprehensive strategic partnership, we set the agenda rather than only react to what the United States or China do. Of course, this is easier said than done because there is a great amount of economic dependence on China, which is slowly becoming strategic. And the Americans are not really challenging China in the region while demanding support from ASEAN on a variety of areas which are mainly transactional. So ASEAN finds itself in a strategic hard place where its autonomy can only be burnished by having a greater global south approach, for which a relationship with India, I think, is extremely important.
And so what would you recognize as some of the key internal challenges for the grouping? There's, of course, the developments in Myanmar. There's a peace deal that has been extended vis-a-vis Cambodia and Thailand conflict in the presence of President Trump. But is the grouping able to address these challenges by itself?
No. But then which regional grouping is able to do that? The African Union unable to do. The Europeans can't solve the Ukraine crisis. So the ASEAN was far more determined to resolve the Myanmar crisis, and they have not been able to do so. Every chairman of ASEAN has tried a different tack, moving away from the 5-point consensus of 5 years ago. But at the same time, the recent Thailand-Cambodia problem, again, they could not resolve between themselves. And now President Trump has taken the credit for it. There are enough mechanisms within ASEAN to resolve these issues. In the past, the pre-Vihar problem between Cambodia and Thailand was resolved by ASEAN foreign ministers. But somehow today, ASEAN internally seems much weaker, and therefore truly their centrality and their unity are both being called in question.
And before we close, Ambassador Singh, Prime Minister Modi, in his opening address, spoke about how India and ASEAN represent about 1/4 of the humanity. Now, such a large grouping commits to sustainable development. There's also reference to tourism in particular and people-to-people exchanges. It has significant bearing for the world, particularly the global south.
Indeed, I think the people-to-people and socio-cultural connect is some of the highlights of India-ASEAN partnership. And PM started by saying that we have a civilizational connect, which is much more than being, geographical partners. And this, last year was the India-ASEAN Year of Tourism. And this year, there has been an India-ASEAN joint statement on sustainable tourism. So I think where people-to-people relations are concerned, we are taking steady steps. PM mentioned education. So now there is a ASEAN-India Universities Network. PM mentioned youth. There is, I think earlier this year, we had the ASEAN-India Youth Summit. So I think there are many things happening under the radar between India and ASEAN to help build ASEAN communities. And I think there is the realization in ASEAN that India is a steadfast global south partner, different from other partners.
On that note, Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, appreciate you joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
Moving on, suspects in the brazen daylight heist of some of France's crown jewels from the Louvre Museum. Those suspects were arrested near Paris on Saturday evening. The Paris prosecutor informed, confirming an earlier report from newspaper Le Parisien. Paris prosecutor said on Sunday that one of the men was arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport, north of Paris, as he was about to leave the country. She did not say in her statement how many men were arrested or shared more details. The robbery at the museum, which houses paintings like the Mona Lisa, happened on October 19th. The thieves used a vehicle-mounted lift to access the Gallery Apollo. That's the Gallery of Apollo, via a balcony overlooking the river Seine. The Kurdistan Workers' Party militant group said on Sunday it was withdrawing from Turkey as part of disarmament process being coordinated with the government. In a statement read during the event in Kandil Mountains, the group's stronghold in northern Iraq, PKK, said it had decided to withdraw all of its militants from Turkey to lay the foundation for a free, democratic and brotherly life, adding that Turkish government should now pave the way for PKK's transition into democratic politics by passing integration laws. Omar Çelik, spokesperson for the ruling AK party, said that PKK's withdrawal decision was a concrete result of the government's terror-free Turkey goal. Patrick Hermione was sworn in as the new president of Seychelles. India was represented at the ceremony by Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan, who conveyed New Delhi's warm felicitations and reaffirmed the close, time-tested friendship between the two sides. Hermione of United Seychelles Party defeated incumbent President Wawal Ramkalawan in a tightly contested runoff, securing over 52% of the votes to Ramkalawan's 47.3%. Marking his party's return to power after 4 years in opposition. India's Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan is on a 2-day visit to Seychelles, marking a new chapter in India-Seychelles relations. DD India's Jayanti Jha has more.
India and Seychelles have a relationship that goes back centuries, highlighting the significance that both nations accord to this partnership. Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan is on a 2-day visit to Seychelles to attend the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect Dr. Patrick Hermione on behalf of the Government of India.
The Vice President further reaffirmed the long-standing ties between India and Seychelles in his interaction with the Indian diaspora in Seychelles.
Today I am especially delighted to meet with you, the Indian diaspora, whose presence here is a living testament to the enduring friendship between our two countries. Your contributions have not only enriched the cultural and social life of Seychelles, but have also played a pivotal role in strengthening India-Seychelles partnership across trade, education, health and technology.
The Indian diaspora has a strong presence in Seychelles, which have always served as a bridge for cultural connect between the two nations. The diaspora shared their excitement on the vice presidential visit with DD India.
They very thank you for coming the Seychelles. Welcome the Vice President.
These visits really excite Indians, and I think it also strengthens the relationship between Indians and Seychelles more.
Definitely the visit is going to grow stronger and faster.
Seychelles is an important part of Prime Minister Modi's Mahasagar vision, which emphasizes economic and maritime security in the Indian Ocean. Mauritius, another island in the Indian Ocean, also comprises an important element of this vision. Earlier in the day, the Vice President also met with the Mauritian Prime Minister Naveen Ramgoolam for a bilateral meeting, highlighting the significance of the Indian Ocean region for India.
The first recorded inhabitants in Seychelles in 1770 included 5 Indians, highlighting how old these ties are. While these relations are rooted in the past, today they are now forward-looking. With cooperation and collaboration ranging across sectors, whether it's marine economy, maritime security, renewable energy or people-to-people ties. With camera person Uttam Singh reporting from Seychelles, this is Jayanti Jha for DD India.
And Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan is on a 2-day visit to Seychelles. The Indian High Commissioner to Seychelles, Rohit Ratish, joined DD India correspondent Jayanti Jha for an exclusive conversation on the significance of the visit and the future of India-Seychelles ties.
We have with us High Commissioner Rohit Ratish with us. Thank you, sir, for joining us on DD India. Sir, what do you see is the significance of this vice presidential visit to Seychelles?
India and Seychelles have time-tested and multifaceted relationship. We have historic and cultural ties. We also share the values of democracy, and we both are pluralistic societies. So there's a lot in common. Both countries also are aware and understand the centrality of the Indian Ocean as an important part of our own well-being and prosperity, and have worked together in the past to keep the Indian Ocean region stable, secure and peaceful.
But how do you see this relationship going forward? What do you see will be the areas of cooperation in the future?
We've had extensive cooperation in the past with the Republic of Seychelles across sectors. These include health, maritime security and defense, renewable energy, education, capacity building, and several other areas. I think what we will try and do now is to strengthen our cooperation in those particular areas, but also seek out new areas of cooperation. For instance, marine conservation and science, artificial intelligence, digital public infrastructure.
How do you see the role that the diaspora will continue to play in India-Seychelles relations?
The diaspora here, the Indian diaspora here in Seychelles, contributes tremendously to the prosperity of this country as well. They are a pillar of our bilateral partnership. Our hope and our work will be to strengthen our links with our own diaspora here and work towards building a more stronger and more expansive partnership with the Republic of Seychelles.
Indian High Commissioner to Seychelles, Rohit Ratish, joining us straight from Victoria, where he spoke about the significance of the India-Seychelles partnership and what we can look forward to. With camera person Uttam Kumar, this is Jayanti Jha for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. We find out about Russia's new super weapon. Prime Minister Modi shares India's coffee story in Mann Ki Baat. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Russia has tested a new nuclear-capable, nuclear-powered cruise missile. Russia's Chief of General Staff, General Valery Gerasimov, said the missile, named Burevestnik, covered some 14,000 kilometers during its testing on October 21st. Russian President Putin said it is a unique weapon which nobody else in the world has.
Russia has successfully tested its nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile, a nuclear-capable weapon Moscow says can evade any defense system. President Vladimir Putin said that Russia needed to understand how to class the weapon and prepare infrastructure for deploying the Burevestnik.
We will need to determine what this is and what class of weapon this new system belongs to. We need to determine its possible uses and begin preparing the infrastructure for deploying this weapon within our armed forces.
According to Chief of General Staff of Russia's Armed Forces, Valery Gerasimov, the missile traveled 14,000 kilometers and was in the air for about 15 hours.
This test was conducted on October 21st. Indeed, its difference from previous tests was that the missile flew for several hours, covering a distance of 14,000 kilometers. And that's not the limit. Nuclear powered, yes. And the Burevestnik's performance characteristics generally allow it to be used with guaranteed accuracy against protected targets at any distance.
So what is Russia's Burevestnik missile? 9M730 Burevestnik, whose name translates as Storm Petrel, is a ground-launched, low-flying cruise missile that is not only capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, but is also nuclear-powered. NATO refers to it as the SSC X-9 Skyfall. Putin has said it has an unlimited range and can evade US missile defenses. Putin called it a unique wear which nobody else in the world has. Russia's top general, Valery Gerasimov, Chief of the General Staff of Russia's Armed Forces, told Putin that in October 21st test, the missile traveled 14,000 kilometers and was in the air for about 15 hours. He said it traveled on nuclear power, could defeat any missile defense and has an unlimited range. Putin had first revealed the project in March 2018. Also, on Thursday, Putin said that Moscow would never bow to pressure from the United States or any other foreign power, and cautioned that it would deliver an overwhelming response to any military strikes deep inside Russia.
Indeed, there is a lot of speculation going on right now, and Zelensky himself, incidentally, recently stated that they allegedly possess the military potential to strike into Russia. Naturally, our armed forces, and Russia will respond harshly to this. And as Putin said, staggeringly.
Putin on Wednesday oversaw a test of Russia's strategic nuclear forces on land, sea and air to rehearse their readiness and command structure. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to talk about this development, joining us is Dr. Rajan Kumar from School of International Studies, JNU. Dr. Kumar, good evening and welcome. What do you make of the timing of the test and announcement of the super weapon by Russia?
Thank you, Shubhendu, for having me here. This is very interesting development, and Russia is trying to catch up with the West. What is happening between the two countries, and also between not only two countries but also NATO and Russia, that there is an arms race going on between the two sides. One is trying to catch up. Russia has, with this test, this is important, Burevestnik, what do you call it, a storm petrel, that's the translation. So what essentially it means that Russia has now nuclear propulsion system through which it can hit a long target, that this missile can remain, it can remain afloat forever. For days and maybe as long as the nuclear this energy that you have. Also, it's a cruise missile, which means that it cannot be detected easily by the missile defense system that US has been planning. And as you know, Trump is planning to invest heavily on what he calls Golden Dome, a missile defense system for the United States. But unfortunately, if you have this kind of missile, so then US will find it extremely difficult to protect. So it's a cruise missile. It's a low flying missile from 10 to 50 meters, or maybe 100 meters. And it cannot be easily detected. But if I tell you the larger story, that arms disarmament treaties which existed between two sides right since the Soviet Union period, and all of them barring just one, START 2, which is going to end next year, all of them have collapsed. One important treaty between the two sides, was this, what do you call it, INFTT, Intermediate Range, nuclear, that treaty which was signed in 1987. And now, this in 2019, this United States decided to withdraw, and as a consequence, both the sides started developing, the short-term, long-range, and all kind of missiles. Just a few days back or a few weeks earlier, you might have heard of Oreshnik missile, which was a ballistic missile. Yeah, so Oreshnik missile, that was ballistic, and this one is cruise. This one is not only cruise, but also because it's nuclear powered, and it has a capacity to carry both the warheads, conventional warheads, or even the nuclear warheads. So that makes it very deadly. This is kind of considered to be a very powerful and important missile. Russia has actually gone far ahead of United States as far as this technology is concerned. So that.
And Dr. Kumar, in this context, how will the West, the US, Europe, they're likely to receive this news and react?
I think there is a background to it. The background was that because the ceasefire is not ceasefire agreement, which they were about to hold it in Budapest, that collapsed, and after that, Russia also had a nuclear drill just a few days ago.
Yes.
Yes, and Russia fears that it's very likely that if the ceasefire doesn't happen, or if some kind of negotiations between the two sides do not happen, in which case United States might provide a Tomahawk missile. Tomahawk is again a cruise missile, and that can carry both this nuclear as well as conventional warhead. So Tomahawk was a likely fear that Russia had. As a consequence, Russia is trying to send a very powerful strategic message to the West, to NATO especially, that this kind of technology Russia has, and this can be used if NATO doesn't understand. So that is the political meaning of this missile, in my view.
And Dr. Kumar, finally, while we're talking about the missile, you mentioned the ceasefire in the context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What is the road ahead? The kind of muscle flexing that we are witnessing in the past few days, what is the road ahead for the conflict which is underway?
See, there is a very deep misperception between the two sides, and for instance, Russia does not believe that United States and NATO they are serious about the ceasefire. Russia thinks ceasefire would be used by Ukraine to accumulate more weapons and fight in the future. Because at the moment, Russia has massive advantage. In the same meeting that you are showing the video where Putin with Gerasimov and other defense personnel in his meeting there. So in that, the Gerasimov is making a statement that there are several areas in Donetsk and Luhansk which Russia is advancing, and they have encircled. It seems, if Russians are to be believed, they have encircled a large number of Ukrainian army, and they're likely to kind of surround it further, and they are going to move ahead. As a consequence, this war is likely to continue because Russia doesn't trust the ceasefire. That Western countries are serious about the ceasefire. Also, the commitment that Russia wants from the West that the territories that it has captured, those territories should be recognized by NATO, by Ukraine. That is unlikely to happen. As a consequence, Russia is insisting on what it calls a long-term peace deal, and which means neutrality of Ukraine, Ukraine not becoming a member of NATO, and also no nuclear forces, no NATO forces in Ukraine, and also the acceptance of the accepting that these territories are part of Russia, which Russia has captured in Ukraine. So these are the tricky issues which Russia calls the root causes. So Russia says that unless you discuss the root causes, we are not going to have the ceasefire. So I don't think that ceasefire is going to happen sometime soon.
Okay, Dr. Rajan Kumar, thank you for joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
Moving on from the hills to the high streets, India's coffee story is brewing stronger than ever. As Prime Minister Modi celebrates the nation's growing coffee culture in his latest Mann Ki Baat, the humble bean is fast emerging as India's new symbol of energy, enterprise and global flavor. Here's how. While tea remains close to India's heart, coffee is fast becoming the new favorite for a generation that thrives on ideas and innovation. In the 127th episode of Mann Ki Baat on Sunday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi turned attention to India's thriving coffee culture while highlighting the popularity of Indian coffee both within the country and internationally.
भारत की कॉफी बहुत लोकप्रिय हो रही है, चाहे कर्नाटका में चिकमंगलूर, कुर्ग और हासन हो, तमिलनाडु में पुलनी, शेवरॉय, नीलगिरी और अन्नामलाई के इलाके हो, कर्नाटका तमिलनाडु सीमा पर बिलीगिरी क्षेत्र हो, या फिर केरला में वायनाड, त्रावणकोर और मालाबार के इलाके, भारत की कॉफी की डाइवर्सिटी देखते ही बनती है.
So let's have a look at the rise of exports of Indian coffee. India's coffee exports have surged by 125% over the past 11 years, touching $1.8 billion in 23-24, up from $800 million in 2014-15. The rise in exports has been attributed to a series of policy measures implemented by Coffee Board of India, including digitalization of permits, export incentives, and support for value addition in processing. As per the data, exports stood at $1.28 billion in 2023-24 compared to $1.14 billion in 22-23. Europe continues to be the top destination for Indian coffee, with key markets including Italy, Germany, Belgium, Middle East nations, South Korea, and Japan. Government has introduced transit and freight assistance, offering rupees 3 per kilogram for value-added exports and rupees 2 per kilogram for high-value green coffee shipments to far-off markets such as the US, Canada, Japan, and the Nordic countries. India, the seventh largest coffee producer globally, with a 3.5% share, ranks fifth in exports with a 5% global share. The country produces about 3.6 lakh tons of coffee annually, with Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu being top growers. The sector directly and indirectly supports around 2 million people. India's coffee is primarily grown in ecologically rich Western and Eastern Ghats, areas famous for their biodiversity. Aman Kumar Himanshu for DD India. Prime Minister Modi urged citizens to join Unity Run, marking Sardar Patel's 150th birth anniversary. encouraged them to learn about tribal leaders Birsa Munda and Komram Bhim.
Sardar Patel, a prominent figure in modern India and a significant personality in the nation's history, has exhibited exceptional intelligence and a strong work ethic from an early age. He earned recognition as a lawyer, but inspired by Gandhiji, he gave up all his pursuits and devoted himself to the cause of freedom. He played a crucial role in movements like Khera and Borsad. Additionally, he set examples of unity, cleanliness, and good governance in the country. PM Modi urged people to join the Unity Run on Sardar Patel's 150th birth anniversary on 31st of October during his Mann Ki Baat program.
सरदार पटेल जी की 150वीं जयंती का दिन पूरे देश के लिए एक बहुत विशेष अवसर है। उप प्रधानमंत्री और गृह मंत्री के रूप में उनके योगदान के लिए हम सभी सदैव उनके ऋणी रहेंगे। साथियों, सरदार पटेल ने भारत के ब्यूरोक्रेटिक फ्रेमवर्क की एक मजबूत नींव भी रखी। देश की एकता और अखंडता के लिए उन्होंने अद्वितीय प्रयास किए। मेरा आप सबसे आग्रह है, 31 अक्टूबर को सरदार साहब की जयंती देश भर में होने वाली रन फॉर यूनिटी में आप भी जरूर शामिल हो और अकेले नहीं, सबको साथ लेकर के शामिल हो। एक प्रकार से युवा चेतना का ये अवसर बनना चाहिए। एकता की दौड़ एकता को मजबूती देगी। ये उस महान विभूति के प्रति हमारी सच्ची श्रद्धांजलि है, जिन्होंने भारत को एकता के सूत्र में पिरोया था।
In Mann Ki Baat address, PM Modi also mentioned Komram Bhim, a young man who stood up against the atrocities of Nizam of Hyderabad during the colonial era. Bhim resisted the Nizam's oppression of farmers and became a symbol of strength, inspiring countless others in their struggle against his oppressive rule.
उस दौर में जब निजाम के खिलाफ एक शब्द बोलना भी गुनाह था, उस नौजवान ने सिद्दीकी नाम के निजाम के एक अधिकारी को खुली चुनौती दे दी थी। निजाम ने सिद्दीकी को किसानों की फसलें जब्त करने के लिए भेजा था, लेकिन अत्याचार के खिलाफ इस संघर्ष में उस नौजवान ने सिद्दीकी को मौत के घाट उतार दिया। वो गिरफ्तारी से बच निकलने में भी कामयाब रहा। निजाम की अत्याचारी पुलिस से बचते हुए वो नौजवान वहां से सैकड़ों किलोमीटर दूर असम जा पहुंचा। साथियों, मैं जिस महान विभूति की चर्चा कर रहा हूं, उनका नाम है कोमरम भीम। अभी 22 अक्टूबर को ही उनकी जन्म जयंती मनाई है। कोमरम भीम की आयु बहुत लंबी नहीं रही, वो महज 40 वर्ष ही जीवित रहे, लेकिन अपने जीवन काल में उन्होंने अनगिनत लोगों, विशेषकर आदिवासी समाज के हृदय में अमिट छाप छोड़ी।
PM Modi announced that November 15 will be celebrated as Tribal Pride Day on the occasion of Lord Birsa Munda's birth anniversary. Birsa Munda's contribution to India's freedom and the rights of tribal community is unparalleled. He urged the youth to learn more about Lord Birsa Munda, Komram Bhim, and many other eminent figures from the tribal community. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. President Draupadi Murmu inaugurates Yashoda Medicity in Ghaziabad. FIFA announces new ASEAN Cup for Southeast Asia. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. India's LVM-3 launch vehicle is scheduled to launch the CMS-03 communication satellite in its 5th operational flight on November 2nd. CMS-03 is a multi-band communication satellite that will provide services over a wide oceanic region, including the Indian landmass. CMS-03, weighing about 4,400 kilogram, will be the heaviest communication satellite to be launched to a geosynchronous transfer orbit from Indian soil. The previous mission of LVM-3 launched the Chandrayaan-3 mission, wherein India became the first country to land successfully near the lunar South Pole. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, today inaugurated Yashoda Medicity, Indirapuram, one of North India's most advanced and sustainable multi-speciality healthcare destinations. The event was graced by Governor of Uttar Pradesh, Anandiben Patel, Union Minister of Defence, Rajnath Singh, Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, and others. DD India's Taposh Bhattacharya gets us more.
India takes a bold step into the future of healthcare. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, today inaugurated Yashoda Medicity in Indirapuram, a 1,200-bedded, next-generation, green and digital hospital that sets new benchmarks in advanced, sustainable and compassionate healthcare. Spread across more than 8 acres, Yashoda Medicity brings together over 65 specialities and 12 centers of excellence, from cancer care and cardiac sciences to organ transplant and neurosciences, all under one roof.
देश के विभिन्न स्थानों में ऐसे संस्थान विकसित हो रही है जिनमें विश्व स्तरीय चिकित्सा सुविधाएं उपलब्ध कराई जा रही है। मुझे प्रसन्नता है कि इस संस्थान के नेतृत्व द्वारा समाज सेवा और राष्ट्र सेवा के आदर्शों को प्राथमिकता दी जाती है।
Registered for LEED certification by US Green Building Council, the hospital blends cutting-edge technology with human empathy. It features 22 modular operation theatres, 252 high-tech ICUs, and an integrated emergency and trauma command system, ensuring seamless life-saving care.
प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में भारत ने स्वास्थ्य सेवाओं के क्षेत्र में एक बेहतरीन दिशा में कदम बढ़ाए हैं। अगर उत्तर प्रदेश की ही मैं बात करता हूं, पिछले 8 साढ़े 8 वर्ष में हम लोगों ने उत्तर प्रदेश में 42 नए मेडिकल कॉलेजेस बनाए हैं, 2 एम्स बने हैं, एक गोरखपुर में और एक रायबरेली में, जो सफलतापूर्वक संचालित हैं।
With high-tech cancer institute delivering unmatched precision in radiotherapy, it also redefining surgical precision and training future generation of surgeons.
With Yashoda Medicity, India reinforces its commitment to world-class patient-centered healthcare. As the nation moves towards Viksit Bharat 2047, Yashoda Medicity stands as a beacon of innovation, accessibility and humane care for all. With camera person Anand Kumar, this is Taposh Bhattacharya reporting for GD India from Indirapuram, Ghaziabad.
Chairman of Pakistan's Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, General Sahir Shamsad Mirza, paid a courtesy call to Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus of Bangladesh at State Guest House, Jamuna, in Dhaka on Saturday. During their meeting, General Mirza and Professor Yunus discussed strengthening Bangladesh-Pakistan ties, focusing on trade, investment and defence cooperation. Mirza highlighted the new Karachi-Chattogram shipping route and the upcoming Dhaka-Karachi airlink. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the action from sports. A new tournament, the FIFA ASEAN Cup, will be launched as part of the agreement between FIFA and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, aimed at boosting development of football across the region. The announcement was made during the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday, where FIFA President Gianni Infantino and ASEAN Secretary General Kao Kim Hom signed a renewed memorandum of understanding. The tournament will bring together national teams from all ASEAN member states in a format inspired by the Arab Cup, which was first organized by FIFA in 2021. The World Football's governing body will work with regional stakeholders, including ASEAN Asian Football Confederation, the ASEAN Football Federation, relevant FIFA member associations, to finalize the tournament's format. Amy Jones' unbeaten half-century helped four-time champions England defeat New Zealand by 8 wickets in the ICC Women's World Cup match in Visakhapatnam on Sunday. Jones and Beaumont shared a 75-run opening wicket stand as England chased down a paltry 169-run target in just over 29 overs. England, who are already in the semi-finals, jumped to the second spot on the table, pushing South Africa to third place. This game marked the final ODI appearance of New Zealand's keeper, Sophie Devine. The veteran all-rounder had already announced her decision to retire from ODIs before the tournament began. 36-year-old played her 159th and final ODI, in which she scored 23 of 35 balls and picked up 1 wicket. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on the screen and download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.